Okay, so today we are going to continue with this section of Isaiah. We are in the section from chapters 13 to 27, as we number them, of course. Isaiah himself didn't number his book into chapters. But this is a section that concerns oracles about the nations around Israel. We read the first part of this section, chapters 13 to 20, last time, and ended in a prophecy or an oracle against Egypt and Cush. And we talked about how this is probably a warning to Judah not to depend on Egypt and Cush for help against Assyria, which they will do. We read about this and we read the historical sections. We'll read it again as we go through Isaiah. King Hezekiah did try to make an alliance with Egypt against Assyria, and it didn't work out for him. Okay, so that was that. And now we're going to read another section about Babylon. We already read a prophecy about Babylon, and we talked about how it was probably really a prophecy against Assyria, because at that time Assyria was in control of Babylon, and the king of Assyria was also known as the king of Babylon. So the prophecy in Isaiah 14 about the king of Babylon is probably referring to the king of Assyria, although there is an element of it possibly referring to both. Okay, we're going to read a prophecy about Babylon here in Isaiah 21, and again, this is one of those things where the fulfillment, it's a little hard to state definitively that we're talking about like a single fulfillment or a partial fulfillment. Babylon is going to get attacked by Assyria and its allies and conquered by them, and then it will conquer Assyria, and then 100 years later, actually 200 years from Isaiah's time. Isaiah is writing this in the 720s or so BC, and during the next couple hundred years, okay, Babylon is going to defeat Assyria, and then it will be the main power for a while, and it will be defeated by an alliance between the Persians and the Medes. That's 200 years from now. That's going to happen in the days, late in the days of Daniel in 539 BC, 200 years beyond Isaiah's own time. And so this prophecy here in Isaiah 21 could have that in view as a sort of distant fulfillment. It could also, I think, in a more immediate sense in Isaiah's own day, has in view the times that Babylon will be attacked by its neighboring enemies in Isaiah's day, by Assyria and its allies, which will happen a few times. So this is one of those sections where it's tricky and difficult to really pinpoint a specific fulfillment of this prophecy. But it helps to kind of know that this could be referring to a few different things, because Babylon will be attacked and conquered by other nations a few different times over the next couple hundred years. During that time, it will also rise up and become its own dominant power. And Babylon is an enemy of Israel. In fact, again, Babylon itself is where Babel was, the Tower of Babel back in Genesis 11. So Babylon has a long history of being against God and against the people of God. And these kingdoms, throughout history would rise and fall and come and go. Babylon had its day back in the Tower of Babel days and following, and now it's kind of the runt compared to Assyria, which is dominant, but it will eventually unseat Assyria and become dominant, and it will get defeated by the Medo-Persian alliance. So it just kind of happens, so. So, Isaiah chapter 21, we're going to be trying to read through chapter 27 today and finish this section about the oracles against the nations. Remember, an oracle is a burden. There's some kind of sense of carrying something or delivering something heavy to someone. When the prophets speak these oracles, they're like delivering a physical thing or a burden or some kind of package to the people they're speaking to. An oracle concerning the desert by the sea. That'd be, assuming the Persian Gulf Sea. We would not call the Persian Gulf, because that's where Babylon is down by the Persian Gulf. We'll identify Babylon as the recipient of this prophecy or oracle in a few verses here. Like whirlwinds sweeping through the southland, an invader comes from the desert, from a land of terror. A dire vision has been shown to me. Isaiah himself is speaking. The traitor betrays. The looter takes loot. Edom, that's a city east of Babylon, or maybe north of Babylon. Edom, attack. Media, lay siege. That's another country, another group of people. I will bring an end. Assuming this is God now speaking. I will bring an end to all the groaning she caused. That's the town. That's her. Again, this is just one of those things where you have to. It's not the way we write today. So when we read this stuff, we're not used to this style of writing because we don't write this way today. Now, maybe if you're heavy in the poetry field, I don't know. Even the poetry field is kind of different these days than it used to be. But of course, no one likes poetry, except for poets. No one likes poetry. But we seem to go back and forth between Isaiah speaking and then God speaking. And he's calling out to Elon and Media to attack and lay siege and bring an end to all the groaning that some enemy nation, has caused. The recipient of this oracle, which we'll find out later is Babylon. At this news, at this attack by Elon and Media, my body is racked with pain. I'm assuming Isaiah is speaking here. Pain seizes me, like those of a woman in labor. I am staggered by what I hear. I am bewildered by what I see. My heart falters. My fear makes me tremble. The twilight I longed for has become a horror to me. So to some degree he wanted this, but now that it's here, he's horrified. This could be a reference to the fact that, like with Egypt and Assyria, which we just got done reading before this, Hezekiah did reach out to Babylon. There was some talk between Hezekiah and Babylon to form an anti-Assyrian alliance. We'll read about that. We read about it when we covered the historical sections earlier, and as we go through Isaiah, we'll read it again. So Isaiah, could be saying that maybe I wanted Babylon to be attacked to cut off that temptation for Hezekiah, my king, to want to rely on them to help. But now that's actually happened, maybe I really didn't want this. I'm not really sure. That's what it seems like to me, at least. They set the tables, they spread the rugs, they eat, and they drink. Get up, you officers. Oil the shields. Now, I don't know exactly what this refers to. I don't know what happened in Babylon when it was attacked by Assyria and its allies in the 720s BC at this time period. I don't know, which again I'm assuming is what Isaiah is talking about, an attack against Babylon that will eliminate Babylon as a potential source of help for Hezekiah and Judah. But this seems to be a reference to when Babylon actually falls to the Medo-Persian alliance in the days of Daniel. We can read about that, and someday we will read about that in Daniel chapter 5. And we would know also from excavations in the city of Babylon itself that they were holding a feast when the city finally fell to the army that finally defeated them once and for all, which were the Medes and the Persians. That's recorded in Daniel chapter 5. So he could be kind of now casting his sight down 200 years down the road from the 720s BC to the 530s BC and say, this is what it's going to be like on that night when Babylon finally falls. I just don't know. I mean, I really don't. It seems like that to me. When I read this, that's how it comes across to me. It seems to be that he's talking about an imminent invasion of Babylon that's going to happen in his own day, and that will cut off Babylon as a source of potential help for Judah and Hezekiah, who are thinking about allying with them against Assyria. But he's also looking forward down the road 200 years to when Babylon falls for good at the hands of the Medo-Persians, on a night in which they are having a festival inside the city, and as is recorded in Daniel 5, and as has been confirmed by archaeological excavations in Babylon itself. So I don't know. Okay, that's what it seems like to me. It seems very likely to me, but that's my best guess. This is what the Lord says to me. Go. So the Lord is talking to Isaiah here. Go, post a lookout, and have him report what he sees. When he sees chariots with teams of horses, riders on donkeys and riders on camels, let him be alert. Let him be fully alert. And the lookout shouted. So he's going to post a lookout and tell Isaiah what he sees when this invading force starts to come. And the lookout shouted, or a lion, according to the footnote down there, maybe a lion shouted, day after day, my lord, I stand on the watchtower. Every night I stay at my post. This is a diligent watchman. Look, here comes a man in a chariot with a team of horses. And he gives back the answer, Babylon has fallen, has fallen. All the images of its gods lie shattered on the ground. Oh, my people, this is Isaiah speaking here, crushed on the threshing floor. I tell you what I have heard from the Lord Almighty, from the God of Israel. I'm thinking he's talking about the invasion of Babylon as it occurred in his own day, with maybe a glimpse down the road to what it will be like in Daniel's day when Babylon falls again at the hands of the Medes and Persian alliance, which we can read about, and will someday read about in Daniel chapter 5. Again, Judah and its king Hezekiah were thinking of relying on Babylon for an alliance, along with Egypt, which was ruled by an Ethiopian dynasty at this time. And these are not going to be options. God is not going to allow them to get away with this. He does not want them to align themselves with other nations instead of with them. And he is going to remove these other nations as potential sources of help for Judah to make them trust him instead. So, that's what it seems like to me. There's a couple of very short little prophecies about some peoples east of Israel, which I don't know much about. And so we're going to get through these next few verses pretty quickly with not a whole lot of commentary. An oracle concerning Duma. Someone calls to me from Seir. Now, Seir was one of the cities in Edom, the nation that Esau founded that existed to the southeast of Judah. So I'm assuming we're talking about Edom here, because that's the city, Seir is a city in Edom. So someone calls to me from Seir. Watchman, what is left of the night? Watchman, what is left of the night? The watchman replies, morning is coming. That's the good news. Morning is coming. Daylight is coming. But also the night. So there's bad news behind that good news. If you would ask, then ask, and come back yet again. So something good is, the good news is morning is coming, but the bad news is there's going to be a bad night ahead of that too. What that's referring to, I can't honestly tell you. I really don't know. It's something to do with what Edom was going through at that point in time, I suppose. An oracle concerning Arabia. This would be the desert to the east of Israel. You caravans of Dedomites who camp in the thickets of Arabia, bring water for the thirsty. You who live in Tema, bring food for the fugitives. They flee from the sword, from the drawn sword, from the bent bow, and from the heat of battle. This is what the Lord says. They're going to be in the desert, and they're going to be welcoming their refugees who flee. This could all be part of the same overall prophecy about the Babylon's fall. It could be that when Babylon fell, that was bad news for Edom, and the survivors came through the desert and found refuge in the thickets of Arabia. I really honestly don't know. It seems like it, but I just don't know. I really don't. This is what the Lord says to me. Within 1 year, as a servant bound by contract counts it, all the pomp of Kedar will come to an end. The survivors of the bowmen, the warriors of Kedar, will be few. The Lord, the God of Israel, has spoken. So I can't tell you when that happened. Apparently it happened within a year of this oracle being given. But I can't tell you the date or the event that it's referring to. Apparently it happened, but I can't tell you the details because I just don't know. An oracle concerning the Valley of Vision. What is the Valley of Vision? Well, we'll find out as we read. Actually, you know what? Let's go ahead and start the video.